Is it worth it to buy a Spider-Man collector booster box for $700? The short answer is no. So for everybody who just left, your bias has been confirmed. Goodbye. But for everybody else, let's go ahead and talk about it. Big thank you to our channel patrons. We appreciate you all so much. Thank you for going the extra mile. If you want to get involved in Patreon, check out the link in the description of the video. We are sponsored by Card Conduit. Card Conduit is a great service that you can use to sell your cards quickly and easily on the internet. Take your unused singles that are 50 cents or more and send them to Card Conduit. They're going to use their buy lists to get the most for your collection. Choose between one of 3 different services depending on the amount of pre-work and sorting that you want to do. Send your cards to Card Conduit and they're going to send you money via direct deposit. Use our code MartyMagic to save 10% on your fees when you finalize your order. We are also proudly sponsored by Heavy Play. Heavy Play has all sorts of really good stuff from deck boxes to play mats to carriers and more. Protect your cards with Heavy Play. They're like the best in the business as far as deck boxes go. This is my baby. It's Karavik. You have a dice box and the deck box here that are, or I said Karavik, but it's Imskir. Geez, sorry. My red-black baby used to be Karavik, but now it's Imskir. You could see him in there through the window. Heavy Play, they make such solid stuff, and if you have a baby like this one, this deck is worth a lot of money. You probably want to be protecting it with something like Heavy Play. You can use our code MartyMagic to save 10% on your order. And also big thank you to Dragon Shield. We've been using Dragon Shield sleeves since 2009 and we are not going to quit. What's really cool about Dragon Shield is they do fully customizable sleeves. So if you are doing something really fun like that, make sure to use our code MM5 when you check out to save 5%. If you had told me that Spider-Man was going to be one of the most anticipated sets, turn least anticipated sets of 2025, or possibly ever in Magic the Gathering, I would have called you a dirty liar, but here we are. I have friends that are long-term Marvel fans. I'm talking people that liked and watched Eternals. Not only did they watch it, but they liked it. Unlike me, they did not fall asleep in it, and they sent text messages to people afterwards. I know because I've received them that said, you know what? Eternals wasn't that bad. I have a friend who works at Marvel, and I'm not going to say his name because I know that he values his job, and I'm sure over there you're not allowed to be like, no, that movie was just okay. You have to be like, no, dude, that movie was amazing, and it was better than Shawshank Redemption. However, these big Marvel fans are also not high on the product, and that's very telling. I thought for a while how I wanted to do this review because I've done many collector reviews, some that started on the old channel. I've been here since the beginning of collector products. Throne of Eldraine started the collector train off in 2019, and since then, wow, I can't even believe that we are going on 6 years of collector products. I've been playing since 2009. I remember when it used to be like people would say, hey, you know that Elish Norn variant? And people knew exactly what you were talking about. Now you say something like that and people are like, which one? You know, it used to be the kind of thing where if someone said, hey, you know that Vexing Shusher promo? Like, you know exactly what card they're talking about. But nowadays there are so many variants, it's hard to even pinpoint exactly what product is. I feel like I'm going on a tangent here, but there were a lot of different ways that I wanted to approach this video, so I just kind of wrote down some notes. Right now in Magic the Gathering, there are a lot of products. There are a ton of products. It is very easy to miss cards because there are so many sets. I remember a time when we were on block schedule, and I just remember like 2009, I remember it being like, okay, that was like Zendikar block. You got Zendikar, you got Worldwake, you got Rise of the Eldrazi. The next year you got Innistrad. You had like Innistrad, or maybe it was like the end of that year, but it felt like, you know, every 4 months or something like that, a new Magic set came out. And now we live in times that are very different than that. Not only does a set come out, but with it, you have Commander products, and unless we're talking about Spider-Man, there are no Commander products. There's so much to keep up with. I also believe that because Spider-Man is kind of wedged in between Final Fantasy and Avatar, it's kind of put in a precarious position because there's just so much fatigue from constantly buying. You also have the complete Pokemonification of Magic the Gathering that's going on right now. We're being Pokemonified. You're getting a ton of scalpers these days. And I'm not saying that people that bought Magic the Gathering product and tucked it away in a trunk or, you know, just put it in their closet and forgot about it. I'm not saying that's never existed. But right now you have people that are grifting and they're like, oh yeah, you know, if I buy a $700 box of Final Fantasy and it goes to, you know, $1,200 or $1,400 after it already took a big jump from $400 to $700, People are saying, can I do that with Spider-Man? Can I do that with Avatar? We've already seen Avatar pre-orders, get to the point where we're seeing those boxes as high as like $900 and $1,000. And Spider-Man hasn't even come out yet. It doesn't come out for, like a couple weeks. We have pre-release roughly a week from today. So you have prices that are hitting all-time highs. People are fatigued. People say, I can't engage with the product. It's been very limited. And right now, there is no better time in history to just embrace the old advice of just buy singles. And I think that that's a very reasonable stance to take. Like I said, this set is wedged between Final Fantasy and Avatar, and, Final Fantasy just like most successful set of all time. And so now you're coming off the heels of that, and people are going, does this really have the legs? There's nothing serialized, which we're going to talk more about serialized stuff as we get further in. But the sentiment for Spider-Man is very low. I'm seeing collector box openings of Final Fantasy come out that are performing better than these hype posts where people are going through collector boxes of Spider-Man. The thing is there's no big chase card in Spider-Man. But Jake, the Soul Stone, I know. We'll talk about it. So right now for me, for Jake, even though Final Fantasy boxes are like $1,400 right now, and I just watched them pre-Vegas, I literally bought a box of Final Fantasy. I have it right here. I bought a collector booster box of Final Fantasy because my buddy didn't want to purchase it from the LGS, and he said, hey, do you want this box of Final Fantasy? I think it's going to cost you like $650 after tax. And I was like, I want one to hold on to, because I've seen what's happened with these serialized chocobos. And I bought this box before we went to MagicCon Vegas, and I bought it for $650 after tax. And as soon as I got back from Vegas, it was $1,200. And since then, the boxes, teetered between $1,200 and $1,400, that kind of thing. Even though I just saw that happen with Final Fantasy, I'm still not springing to buy Spider-Man collector booster boxes. And I'm going to do what everybody does here. Everybody who makes a video similar to this is going to talk about the same products. They're going to talk about Lord of the Rings Universes Beyond. They're going to talk about Fallout Universes Beyond, Final Fantasy Universes Beyond, because those are the ones that have done the best. Even Doctor Who right now has been doing really well, and now those collector boxes that were as low as $250 or sub $300 are now around that $500 price point. And right now in Magic the Gathering, there are two kinds of collector products. You have the regular base set, and when I say base set, or let's just say Magic Universe IP, stuff like Edge of Eternities, which are cards that exist within Magic. Sets like Theros Beyond Death, Throne of Eldraine, all the I'm saying like really old products, but those were some of the first collector products. But stuff like Edge of Eternities that just recently came out, and before that we had Dragonstorm, Tarkir Dragonstorm. These are Magic the Gathering collector products that are one tier. But then above that tier, you have Universes Beyond collector products. So you have these collector products that are like, like $400 a box. Now collector boxes are coming out like Edge of Eternities. And I remember when collector boxes first came out, it was Throne of Eldraine, and those were around like $250. At the time, booster boxes were still 36 packs, and a booster box was, between $100 and $120. And so the collector product being $250 and 12 packs, people were like, whoa, this is different. This is weird. But since then, that product has evolved a lot. And I believe one of the biggest ways that it's evolved is how Universes Beyond collector products have performed. When I'm looking at, stuff like Fallout, acquired at around $400. And now this is around like $1,600. Lord of the Rings, special edition. I bought this around $350. And now this is around $2,500. You have boxes that are performing way better than the S&P 500. Stuff like Final Fantasy collectors. You have these Universes Beyond products, and if I were to look at those and I were to say, yeah, just buy Universes Beyond stuff, you should just buy it. Buy it and it will do well, right? I think like you could just look at that and be like, oh yeah, like the Warhammer collector decks, for example. the regular Warhammer Commander decks at this point. Stuff like that has done very, very well. So if you haven't been here for a long time, you might look at these products that I just mentioned, and you might say to yourself, yeah, just buy Spider-Man, the price will go up. Long-term sealed, I think most Magic the Gathering products will do fine. So why am I low on Spider-Man compared to these products that I just talked about? Let's get the most irrelevant point out of the way. I'm not particularly connected to the IP. Other than that, the movies are fine, but I'm not a super fan. And so because I'm not a super fan, I'm just like, yeah, it's okay. But I know that other people are super fans and Disney is huge. So my opinion really doesn't matter. And to be fair, of the collector products, you know, it's like Fallout, for example. I don't have a big connection to Fallout. I enjoyed the show. I thought the show was great. I never played the games. Lord of the Rings, for example, I don't have a big connection to that IP either. I enjoyed the movies. I thought the movies were great. I thought they had great moments. I will rewatch them every now and again, but I'm not a Lord of the Rings super fan. But I know that the super fans are out there. Final Fantasy, I have the biggest connection to because I played those games. I played them with my cousin. There's a lot of nostalgia that comes with that. Doctor Who, I have no real interest at all. I've watched one-off episodes. There's a amazing Van Gogh episode of Doctor Who that I think everybody should see. It's very good. For the most part, of the collector products that have come out for Universes Beyond, Final Fantasy is the only one I've really connected to. I love Vivi. I love Final Fantasy IX. And it doesn't really matter if you have a connection to the product. I say all of this to say, like, even though I'm not connected to Fallout or Lord of the Rings or Doctor Who, these products have done well. And they were made into a Universes Beyond product because there is a fandom that exists for them. So even though I'm not high on Spider-Man, that doesn't mean that it's not going to do well in the long term. Though I will say it is very interesting that people who are long-term Marvel fans are seeing the biggest Marvel set come out with one of the biggest characters ever in the history of Marvel, and they are just not that interested in it. All of that aside, Spider-Man has some really interesting stuff. It has a bunch of recognizable characters. It has a Soul Stone. It has 10 different variants of Spider-Man that exist in it. It has tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of characters that are called Spider-Man or some version of Spider-Man because it's like the multiverse Spider-Man. I think like that's a big interesting difference as well. You have a set like Final Fantasy where you have so many different characters, like a swath of characters that all relate to many different people, from, you know, Vivi to Cloud to Sephiroth to Aerith to Tifa, Barrett, and so many more, right? And you have Spider-Man, which I'm not saying Spider-Man isn't interesting. You know, there's a ton of villains that I think are awesome that came from the Spider-Man universe. But like everybody in the set is like a different Spider-Man. To me, that's kind of boring. That's kind of boring. But for the people that love Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse and all that kind of stuff, I could see how they're really going to like it. It has tons of recognizable characters. It has the Soul Stone, which I think is a good card that isn't super broken, but I don't think the Soul Stone is going to be able to prop itself up and carry the set on its back. Like most collector products, Spider-Man has a whole bunch of special variants that only exist in the collector product, and it also has a bonus sheet of old notable MTG cards that already existed in Magic that are now reskins for the Spider-Man universe. And all of that is good, but is it $700 good? And I don't think that it is. I'm looking at Final Fantasy here right now, and these are singles from the set. Now, everything here from this Fire Crystal, or essentially like right around this area, is $5, and everything below is less than $5. So if you're seeing it on this list, these are all going to be cards that are lower than $5. Everything as I scroll down. You're looking at pretty much every variant under the sun. Now, each of these sets is going to have outliers. It's going to have cards that do very well. It's going to have stuff like your Lightnings, stuff like your Vivis, stuff that really blows up. Every set needs to have chase cards. Stuff like Sephiroth that came out and was expensive and has stayed expensive. But then you have other stuff like Cloud that's come out, and Cloud was expensive when it came out and has dropped significantly in price. So all of these variants, you're seeing all of these special variants, this is going to be the same way that Spider-Man goes. You're going to have tons and tons and tons and tons of cards that come out, and what's going to end up happening is when the set comes out, 90% of the cards in the set are going to lose like 90% of their pre-sale price. That just happens all the time in Magic the Gathering. You'll have a card come out that's $20 pre-sale. As soon as it's opened a bunch, if it's not some hot shit variant, or if it's not some card that everybody's highly anticipating, it's going to end up bottoming out. So you're looking at like base copy versions of cards here that are, 50 cents of cards that have powerful effects. Now you will have to go through look at these. These are the not chase variants, but these are like special versions of cards. This is Zidane in the pose treatment, and it's super cheap. Here's Jekt, here's Kane. You're not looking at just uncommons and stuff and commons. These are cards that are rares, and because there are so many different versions of them at this point, and chase versions and all that kind of stuff, you have stuff that's just hitting massive all-time lows. So if a card came out and it was $20 pre-sale, it's probably seriously like down to like $2 by now. It'll be like 10% of what that price is. And that happens with most Magic the Gathering sets. And Spider-Man will be no different. Most of you who are watching the video are not subscribed, nearly like 90% of you. So if you find these videos helpful or useful, if you think you're going to be back in the future, please subscribe. It does a lot for the channel that you don't even know. And all you have to do is click a button, baby. What are you waiting for? There are going to be chase variants of Spider-Man that are really, really interesting. But all of this kind of stuff, like Soul Stone, this is currently pre-selling for $140. Expect that card to be like 30 bucks. Okay? Now there's special versions of it. Like this special version, it's not even serialized. It's extremely, extremely expensive. You have this Thanos one that's like this one I've heard is like pre-selling for like thousands of dollars. It's not even serialized. It's going to be like a Sothera the Super Void that just came out of Edge of Eternities, right? And that's okay, but I think the serialized thing, and we're going to talk about it more in a second when we look at some of these older sets, I think that plays a part as far as the collectability goes. When people are buying a collector box for $700, $800, $900, $1,000 or more, they want to know that there's some sort of payoff in there that exists. You have this Thanos one right here that's pre-selling for $721. I mean, sure, maybe it stays like that. I know that Surge Foil Sephiroth is expensive. I know that there's certain Surge Foils that are just so rare from Final Fantasy that aren't serialized that are expensive as well. But I think that serialized chance plays an important part in which of these products end up being a big success. But the bulk of this stuff here, this is all just going to be stuff that's like, if it's a base copy version of a card, I don't care if it's mythic, like this Eddie Brock here, pre-selling for $67. No, sorry, it's not going to stay like that. Cosmic Spider-Man pre-selling for $70. It's not going to stay like that. These early prices of cards, like Symbiote Spider-Man, this version is pre-selling for $54. It's a rare. Every pack is going to have variants like this in them. These early prices, these pre-sale prices, don't ever take them seriously, because this is how they move these products. This is the kind of thing that they want to be able to reference. Oh no, but did you see Spectacular Spider-Man's going for $45, and all of these different versions are probably pre-selling for like, $100 or more. Like I'm sure there's going to be one that's like, oh yeah, that one's like $300 or $400. But to me, it's like, it's just, they're selling the IP. That is what it is, because the set doesn't have anything in it that's overwhelmingly broken or busted or reinventing the wheel as far as MTG goes. Like web slinging is pretty cool. I like that there's cards that transform, but there's nothing here that I'm looking at that I'm like, oh yeah, that's game breaking, or like, wow, that card's really gonna like go the distance, or like, keep in mind it's a set that's standard legal. There are very cool cards in it. I like that there's memes in it as well, but for the most part, I don't see anything when I look at it where I go, oh yeah, like I have to have it. Spider-Man from a single standpoint, if you don't care about special variants, and I kind of want to shut down this argument, because so many people are like, the sets are so expensive these days, I can't engage with it. It's too expensive for me. As long as you're not buying collector products, because that's the point of the collector products. The collector products are supposed to be expensive. They're supposed to be exclusive. They're supposed to be for whales. They're supposed to be for people that are gamblers. They're supposed to be for people that want spicy, splashy variants. So I think most of the people are like, I can't engage with the product. I think what they're saying is the collector products are too expensive for me. And that's fine. That's how that product is designed to be. I believe that anybody who wants to engage with Spider-Man and actually own the set, like just buy base copy versions of cards, I think you're going to have no better time than just wait like a month after the set comes out, and you could buy anything that you want. You could buy any freaking card under the sun in the set as long as you're buying base copy versions of cards, and you can buy probably the entire set, like one of everything that matters once it all hits rock bottom prices, with the exception of the few outliers, the VVs, the Lightnings, the cards that do maintain that value, the Soul Stone that's inevitably going to be like $30 to $40 once it all settles out. You'll be able to acquire all of that for a small fraction of what a collector box would have cost. Probably like a couple $100, something like that. Because most of this stuff, the base copy versions, just like Final Fantasy, just like we saw, like, sure, the Ristic Study's expensive, but most of the Through the Ages stuff is not. You can just buy, most likely you'll be able to buy tons of variants for cheap as well. I don't really want to hear that argument anymore where people say, oh, you know, the game is too expensive to engage with, because if you buy singles, then it's not. You can just buy pretty much everything that you could possibly need, and it's not going to cost you that much. It'll probably cost you less than it would be to buy an entire booster box. Now, if you do want special variants of cards, obviously you will have to engage with the collector product. If you want to be like, I'm going for that expensive Soul Stone that's worth, you know, thousands of dollars, then yes, you have to go with the collector box. But nothing in the collector product, for example, is mechanically exclusive. Everything that appears in that is going to appear in the play box as far as mechanics go. I'll link this article. This is an article that I typically go through. I don't need to go through and read it. It's just an article that goes through everything that is in the set, tells you what's available where you're going to find stuff. It's going to tell you odds. If you go all the way to the bottom, you can check out the odds as far as like what are the chances of finding what in what. Let me find it. Yeah, here we go. Here's all the odds. It's going to give you like breakdowns, 1 in every 24, or here's 55 uncommons from the set, 3 uncommon scene cards, 60 uncommons, 70.8%. You know, they're going to tell you rarities in each slot of the pack, what you can expect and where to find what. And anybody that's spending $600 or $700 on a pack or a box, I highly encourage you to go in here and read this kind of stuff. So like for traditional foil uncommons, it tells you in each slot what you can find. So, for example, a textless cosmic foil version of the Soul Stone appears in an extremely low quantity of collector boosters. This card is always in English and can appear in collector boosters of any language. So, like stuff like this, you're going to hear about all of the highly exclusive stuff that exists and where to find it. I'll link this in the video, and I encourage everybody to go read that. And there is an article like this that comes with every single collector product that comes out these days. So familiarize yourself with it. Make sure that you're educated on it. So is it worth it to buy the collector box? My opinion is at $700. No, it isn't. I've already seen some people complain like, hey, I bought my box at $900 and then the prices dropped. It just doesn't have the same... I don't think that it's good for collector products to come out and immediately be worth $1,000. I think you have to see how the market actually accepts them. You have to see how they are when they're actually opened. Everything coming out and immediately being $1,000, I don't think that works. It's not the kind of thing that makes me want to engage with it. From a singles aspect, you absolutely don't want to buy the collector box because there is a very low chance if you don't hit that Soul Stone, there is a very low chance of recouping your value in the box. You are just most likely going to come out in the red. But is it worth it to buy it and keep it sealed? Well, for that, I do think that there's an argument because I think there is a chance that this product just gets absorbed by people by default, even though it's not a strong set. Even though it's a set that people aren't super high on right now, I think it's one of those things that is going to be a flash in the pan because Spider-Man is here and then it's gone. I think with licensing and stuff, it's going to be very difficult, like all these other products, to bring it back. And so for stuff like that, for the uber Spider-Man fan, I do think that it could just be one of these boxes that you just buy and it just goes up. However, there are fast growers and there are slow growers. So for example, I talked about, Fallout and Lord of the Rings Special Edition Collector and Final Fantasy Collector. These have all, just kind of gone parabolic in a lot of ways. Stuff like this, old rare stuff. I remember buying this deck for, I don't know, like $30, maybe like $30 or $35 from Target. It was on the shelf at Target years ago, 2017. And now this is, because we've had Edgar be reprinted and that kind of thing, the price of Edgar has gone down significantly. He got all of the versions that came out in Innistrad Remastered. But this product is just old. Now, just because something is old doesn't mean that it's going to perform like this did. I have this, which is older. This is interesting. I want to talk about, modern event deck. This is something that came out in, 2014. Came out in 2014. It's a very specific, unique deck. It's got like a Sword of Feast and Famine. It's got 60 cards, a 15-card sideboard, spin down life counter, 80 exclusive card sleeves, 5 double-sided tokens, a deck box. It's a black-white deck, as you can see up top. They never made any other decks like it, and it was just something that came out as called the Modern Event Deck. It's an old product, but it has not really appreciated. It hasn't done anything parabolic. The same is true with like old weird stuff like this, like buying pre-release kits of stuff like these sets, Modern Horizons 2. This is a great set, but these old MTG products, they don't go down in price. I should say they don't like start tanking in price, but they just kind of stay even. And so when I look at Spider-Man, the reason I'm talking about all these specific products here, you have the ones like Final Fantasy, Lord of the Rings, Fallout, even Doctor Who right now, the Universes Beyond stuff that's gone just absolutely parabolic and just like going to the moon. You have old random niche stuff like this that does really well, but you also have old random niche stuff like this that doesn't do very well. And I think that of the Universes Beyond products, Spider-Man is the most positioned to just be flat for a long time. I think that those collector boxes could just stay kind of like, steady. They go up. Sure, they go up, but I think they could go up at a much slower rate and do more of like what a Doctor Who did, especially because these boxes are coming out at like 700. And when you see people are like, okay, there's nothing serialized to chase like in Final Fantasy. There's nothing serialized to chase like in Lord of the Rings. There's nothing serialized like in Fallout. I think that that's going to play a big part in people's disappointment when they're cracking collector boxes of Spider-Man. They're going to go, oh yeah, I cracked a box of Spider-Man, I got a couple good cards, but it's not like Final Fantasy, for example, where you're pulling stuff like Surge Foil Y'shtola and Surge Foil Terra and Surge Foil Tidus and Surge Foil Cloud, all from the Commander decks, and those are big hits. And Surge Foil Sephiroth, which is going to be a big hit. You are going to have people that are hunting for a Soul Stone, but then they're also going to be hoping that, variants like these are enough to prop up the set. Like this Norman Osborn, this variant is selling at $129. Do you really think like this variant is going to be $129 once this set comes out and is being opened in mass? And I have these cards right now sorted by price USD. So we're looking at all these variants like Silk Web Weaver. Yeah, sure, $20 for the regular version of this rare. And this version's worth $100 right now. Like, that's absurd to me. Like, come on, man. So I don't think it has the depth of collectability that some of these other sets have. And I may be way off. It may be the kind of thing where it like comes out and people are like, man, Jake, you were way, way wrong about that set. But for me, it's just way too high risk at the moment. Like, I don't like spending $700 or $800 on a box, and it's speculative. Like, I saw how well received Final Fantasy was, and when I bought this box here for $650, I had already seen that the box was appreciating in value. I had already seen how much people were just like going crazy for the set. And so when I bought it, it was an educated buy. It was like, okay, you know, not only is this a pre-order at a store that my friend is hooking me up, and I already see these boxes are trending above it. He was like, buy this box at $650. The boxes were already like $700 elsewhere. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll buy it. It's a little bit of a speculative thing. And now it's, you know, $1,400, and I've already, you know, doubled my money on it. With Spider-Man, there's so much risk. There's so much risk. Looking at Fallout right here, we got a beloved IP. It has popular staples and Fallout treatment, stuff like Sol Ring, Arcane Signet, Crucible of Worlds, many others. It brought us cool new cards like Nuka-Cola Vending Machine, for example. It's got bobbleheads that are serialized, which I think is, you know, that's pretty consistent among all the successful collector products, is there's something serialized in them that's like the high-end chase that somebody could hit. I think Spider-Man not having something serialized was probably a misstep. I know when Brothers War first came out and everything was serialized, and they brought like so many, like thousands of serialized cards into circulation, we were like, yo, dial it back. Having less serialized is good. Innistrad Remastered, the only card that's serialized. Edgar Markov, Final Fantasy, the only card that's serialized in it. Golden Chocobo. Like, less is more, but none is actually just none. You know, like if there is nothing serialized to chase, there's nothing serialized to chase. So you're putting all your eggs into the Soulstone basket. So when we look at something like Universes Beyond Fallout, we're like, wow, you know, that product did extremely, extremely well. Look at the yearly chart. A year ago, and I remember because my buddy actually sold his box for $400, and I'm sure he's kicking himself now. My Fallout box acquired around the $400 range. I think it was actually, no, it was acquired around probably like the $350, $375. And since just last year, we have gone from 500, and we have sales. You can see recent sales here. 11 items sold at $13.85. One item sold at $1,400. That means, like, even if this one's an outlier, this box is selling for around $1,400. And the unopened English right now, $1,700 on TCG Player. So look at what the product has. Popular staples like Sol Ring, Arcane Signet, Command Tower, many others, all with Pip-Boy treatments. It has serialized cards like the bobbleheads that people can collect. That's kind of interesting. This is also an interesting product because it had no main set like Spider-Man. This was a collector product that came out alongside the Commander decks. So everything in this collector product here is all just variants of Commander cards, and then there's some like exclusive collector box only stuff like the bobbleheads and like the Pip-Boy treatments and fancy surge foils of Commanders and stuff like that came out in Fallout that were in the Commander decks, but you can only get the special versions in the collector product. That's how this product kind of exists. So these boxes were around $400, and now they're around what looks like $1,700 on TCG for the lowest price one that you can buy right now. This one right here is Japanese, so ignore this one. But this is the English price right here. Cheapest on TCG Player. Now, the Lord of the Rings collector display. This is an interesting one, right? Post Malone ended up finding the $2 million ring, or after Brooke Trafton found it and sold it to him for $2 million. Brooke Trafton found it in Canada, met up with Post Malone at a concert, sold him the ring for $2 million. People thought, oh, well, now that ring was found, it's dead. But to the contrary, it very much is not. Look at the yearly chart of this box. This thing is on a screen. Now, when these boxes first came out, I remember and correct me here, Chad, if I'm wrong, but this came out in, I believe, June of 2023. These boxes were around like $375 to $400 when they first came out. After Post Malone got the ring, everybody was like, oh, well, you know, that box is going to drop in price. And sure, it's had dips along the way. It had even like a little plateau here, but it is on the way up. In this product, you have serialized Sol Rings that, as you can see here, are worth thousands of dollars. There are 900 of the human one. There are, 300 of the elf one, and 700 of the dwarven one. But they are all worth thousands of dollars. When you look at completed items here, you could see people are buying them. Not very often, but one sold on September 9th for $6,500. Here's one that sold for $1,250, and this is just the Elven non-serialized Soul Ring. So if you look at Lord of the Rings Soul Ring, this is just how flippin' rare they are. The ones that are not serialized are selling for $1,250 for the Elven one because they come out of an expensive box. Here's the human one, or no, this is the dwarf one, sold for $250. Here's another one sold for $799. These are not even the serialized ones. So you just have iconic cards here that are extremely low rates that are pushing the price of this product as well. So because this product has serialized cards in it, it has really good stuff like the Nazgul. It has tons and tons and tons of value even after Post Malone found the One Ring. Now this box that was, around $400 has tripled in price, and now it's around $1,200. Now this one is an entirely different beast here. You have a product that came out, and this one, oh man, when it came out, it caught so much shit. I mean, we don't even have the original low price here. You need like a much further out chart. Look at how many people were buying this product at like 800s and 900s, and now here we are, and we have the first collector product that's probably, eventually going to hit like $5,000 or something like that. This is just bananas. These boxes you could get for as low as like $250 a box at one point, $300 a box. I purchased mine at $350 for this box, and it is one of my best MTG purchases of all time. I have no intention of opening it because if I don't open a serialized One Ring by Justine Jones, it's just not going to be worth it. So they are very feast or famine. You would have to hit like tons of really, really, really good cards to even get close to that price. That's why the sealed market is so much more attractive to me. It's like, just keep your shit sealed. That just makes the most sense. So why is this product so amazing? Well, you have amazing variants in it. For example, the serialized poster foil by Justine Jones. This product is really interesting because the Lord of the Rings Special Edition has different serialized cards from the original Lord of the Rings collector product, but serialized cards nonetheless. You have very fancy stuff like the One Ring here, Gem Mint 9.5, number 2 of 100, and it's selling for $100,000. Now that doesn't mean that someone's going to pay that, but that's what the going rate is. Now there are no listings for this on TCG Player right now, so that just gives you an idea of just how incredibly rare these are. So even though Post Malone has the original one of One Ring, you have 100 psychedelic ones that exist on the secondary market, or not on the secondary market, but in the aether that are out there somewhere. Hopefully they're not destroyed. A lot of them have been unearthed. Many of them have not been opened. But this is another thing that drives the price of that product, this exclusivity, this knowing that there is something that is limited within it. These are all the poster foils from the set. Serialized cards. They are all extremely expensive. This is just the foil One Ring without serialized. It's $1,000. But everything that's serialized in this set is just insanely expensive. And then after that, we don't have a lot of stuff. So you can just see how these are getting soaked up as well. There aren't a ton of them on the market because they're just so rare. And then you have Final Fantasy, and I don't even know where to start with that. I know Final Fantasy is very recent in everybody's mind, so I don't think I really need to dig in much as to why Final Fantasy was such a success. But you also have the Golden Chocobo. And here it is, here's one, a BGS 9.5 Gem Mint, 675 watchers. It's got, it's 15 of 77, a very chill $400,000. So even if that $400,000 is a complete fugazi number that no one's ever even going to freaking pay, The fact that people can look at this and go, holy crap, if I buy that Final Fantasy box, I could get lucky and I could find one. To be completely honest, you'll never get lucky and you will never find one. So this big payday is what somebody is able to justify when they go, you know what? I think I'll buy a Final Fantasy collector box for $1,500. Because you know what? There's a chance. And even though most smart people know that their chance is minuscule, there are people just like you and me that went out and bought a pack of Final Fantasy and opened this. And for most people who aren't just absolutely, flush with cash to spend, a massive payday like this can change somebody's life. So if you open one of these golden chocobos, you're like, wow, things have changed for me. And I think that is what Spider-Man is missing. And that, in my opinion, is what is going to keep Spider-Man collector boxes at a slow rate of growth. I do believe that they will grow, but I do not believe that the volatility will be as high as these other collector products that I'm highlighting right now. And even Doctor Who, which is a product I'm not even going to talk about because I have very little interest in talking about it, even Doctor Who also has serialized cards. They all look the same. It really bums me out. But here's all the Doctor Who serialized stuff. You can see that their serialized cards are much cheaper. And even though, Doctor Who's, it's the same kind of thing as Fallout. Doctor Who had commander decks, and it had special versions of those commander cards that came in this product. But just like Fallout, it's all themed to Doctor Who. And if you want to get those cool Surge foils and that kind of stuff, you had to buy the collector booster box of Doctor Who. That's where you're going to find the serialized stuff. That's where you're going to find the special variants, because if you just bought the regular Doctor Who commander decks, you weren't able to get all of those flashy variants. So here we are looking at Spider-Man collector booster boxes, and the prices are even cheaper than when I first started making this video. I said in the beginning of this video that they're around 700. Well, you could see on eBay here that they are less than that. 650 pre-sale. Sure, after tax and shipping, that's going to be around, $700, $720. Is it worth it to buy this? I think the risk is massively high. I think if you are buying this with the intention of opening it and hoping to crack valuable singles, I think you're going to be very disappointed. But if you are buying this with the anticipation of growth, do you think it's going to pull a Final Fantasy? Do you think it's going to pull a Fallout or a Lord of the Rings special edition? I don't think that it has the legs. I really don't. I don't think that this product has the potency to get it there where it needs to be. And I'm sure that some people are going to be very disappointed to hear me say that, but that's just what my gut is telling me. I think it needed a little bit more collectability within it, and I think neglecting to put something serialized, maybe that Soul Stone, maybe the Soul Stone that has the base variant, just like the Traveling Chocobo, just do a bunch of base variants and then do one really cool special art serialized version that only exists in the collector product, and I think we'd be having a different conversation. Just do like a X out of 100 and leave it at that, and that would give the product some very long-term collectability. But as of right now, my friends who bought at like $800, $900 a box, I'm sure you're feeling the burn a little bit. I'm sure you're like, man, why didn't I wait? And what I can say to you is they're not always going to be winners. Not every single one of these products that comes out is going to be some, big successful product that everybody's able to look at and go, wow, what an amazing feat. We're not always going to get a Final Fantasy out of our collector products. All of these names that you see scrolling by right now are our patrons at the $10 level or higher. These are folks that have gone the extra mile and support Martishius Magic so that we can continue making videos full time. Head on into the description of the video if you want to learn more about Patreon and the perks that are offered over there. There are videos that only appear there. I've started doing kind of like a Jake journal series where I just talk about like kind of my thoughts and that kind of stuff. And you're going to see that kind of stuff over there, among other like random MTG related content and news and just general channel updates. I appreciate you joining me for this review. I know that it was long-winded. I know we talked about a lot of different stuff, but I wanted to kind of approach this, is it worth it to buy a collector box of Spider-Man, a little bit differently. And so I hope you found the review useful. If you did, subscribe, please.